In a world of 350 billion movie podcasts, two chumps have decided that now is the time for cult movies to engage in combat. Disagreements will be had, blood may be spilled, and voiceover artists most definitely will not be paid. This is Cult Film Face-Off.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Cult Film Face-Off. My name is Chet Roybus. With me as usual is Nick Leonard.
Hello there.
This episode we're going to be looking at two films from the 1980s that would seem on the surface to not have very much in common. We're going to be looking at After Hours from 1985 and Big Trouble in Little China from 1986. We've had loads of requests for After Hours. After Hours is a film that's come up quite a lot and people have asked us to pair it with something without making any suggestions of what to do. So I was thinking about Eyes Wide Shut might have been a good one. There's that whole roster of what are they called, like yuppie panic movies. There was the Something Wild. There's films that I could have paired it with, but none of them seemed right. And then somebody got in touch and suggested that we do it with Big Trouble in Little China, which I thought was mad. I asked him to explain, and he said this. Big Trouble in Little China follows a man with a mundane job who meanders into a literal underworld of an iconic city. In both films, the night transforms the prosaic 80s Manhattan, San Francisco's Chinatown into realms of the fantastic. Yet, in the end, both protagonists return to the toil of everyday life, entering data, driving a truck, surprisingly with the same gusto or lack thereof seen in the beginning of their respective films. On a final note, both films are lateral moves in the careers of Scorcese and Carpenter. Many consider them to be oddities in tone and subject matter. So I thought that was a really good
play.
Yeah, so here we are. We're going to start with After Hours from 1985, directed by Martin Scorsese. After a lonely New York office worker becomes enchanted by a woman he meets in a diner one night, he consequently pursues her down a rabbit hole of chaos, crime, and hot-tempered ice cream vendors. After Hours.
Why don't you just go home?
I've been asking myself that one all night long.
So what happened? Why can't you?
I met this girl tonight, okay, in a coffee shop.
I feel like something incredible is really going to happen here.
So when I got home, I gave her a call. On the cab on the way down here, all my money flew out the window. I didn't really get along with her that well.
What's the matter?
I said, I want to see a plaster of Paris bagel and cream cheese paperweight. Now cough it up. So I left. Gigi! So I haven't got enough money to get home until I meet this bartender who wanted to lend me the money.
That's all right. Forget it. It's all right.
Poor boy.
So I go back to the girl's apartment, but her roommate's really pissed off at me for the way I treated her friend.
This the guy?
Hi. So I march right in there to apologize. Come on! But she'd already killed herself. I was too late.
Oh, wow.
Lighten up. What is this?
I'm in big trouble. Big trouble!
Now this part, you're gonna say, oh, you're lying to me. Don't lie to me, but it's true.
Mohawk this guy!
I couldn't believe that.
It's him!
Tell him, it's not my fault. I didn't do it.
I gotta tell who you didn't do what.
Help! 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 Call the police!
What's with you? Are you nuts or something?
Luckily, there was this girl who saw the whole thing.
You're dead, pal.
And what?
So now she's the one in the Mr. Softy ice cream truck who's trying to kill me. They're all trying to kill me. I just wanted to leave. My apartment, maybe meet a nice girl. And now I've got to die for it,
What do you want from me? What have I done? I'm just a word processor, damn it.
Is that all there is?
After Hours, when anything can happen, and usually does.
Is that unbelievable or what?
That's all there is.
Okay, so I saw this film once many, many years ago when I was trying to watch every Scorsese film, probably at the beginning of the 90s, I'd have thought. Have you seen it before?
No, I'd never seen it before. I've always wanted to see this film.
What did you think?
I really enjoyed it.
Did you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. He's such a likeable lead.
Griffin Dunne.
Griffin Dunne is just such a great actor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not seen him in anything else apart from American Werewolf in London. I've not seen him in any other films.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I know he was also. I think he's still a director. I know he directed a few things, but he is perfect in this film, really.
Yeah, great bit of casting. Yeah, I was just completely engrossed by this. It's just kind of like, every time that he's seeming to get closer to getting home, he's thrown another curveball and another curveball, and I like the dream-like surrealness of it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. What did you think?
It left me a bit cold when I saw it, I thought it was too. Maybe I was too young to watch it. But it has been reappraised, and it's one of those films that's, we got asked several times to do it on this podcast, and it's one, there's just a buzz. You see it mentioned a lot. It's like people are sort of have decided that this is a true lost gem. It left me cold as a kid. It left me ice cold now. I really didn't like this film, and I think that Scorsese I thought he blundered his way through it. If I'd never seen a Scorsese film and you showed me all of his films and I watched them, from start to finish, and you told me that one of those films was a gigantic flop and it was fraught with difficulties, the likes of which you can never believe, and it was shot in a state of confusion, and at one point Scorsese was hospitalised because he was doing so much cocaine, I would pick this. It feels like an absolute folly. I can't believe that it's so well liked, and I can't believe that it made money. This feels like a flopperoo for the ages, a real folly.
Wow, no, I really enjoyed it. I was just completely engrossed in this guy's plight. I mean, I think what's interesting about this is that it was made. Scorsese made this when he was, and I think it explains a lot about the tone and about where Scorsese's head was at, is that basically he'd been getting huge problems with the studio about Last Temptation, and he was getting squeezed by the studio, production deadlines, budget deadlines, he had all these problems, so he did this film about this guy who was in his own kind of, fucking turmoil. So I think that links up. This kind of explains where his head was at. I love it. It was like Hitchcockian. It was like there was these sinister undertones, which I really liked in it, when it touched upon the kind of, he was talking about the Burns story, and the kind of the sadomasochism with Kiki. Linda Fiorentino is just an actress who in certain roles just exudes sexuality. You just don't know how that's going to turn. Is it going to suddenly go really dark? Is it suddenly going to be, just some dark comedy? I really like this. This is kind of, for me, it's certainly not up there with King of Comedy, but it's kind of just like a little mini masterpiece, like King of Comedy, which is one of my favourite Scorsese films. I loved how tight it was. The script was tight. I liked this whole bohemian nightlife that we were kind of given a snapshot to in the 80s. I'd love to have been around in that time. it just looked like lots of weird artistic shit going on, experimental. And I like the sort of, it's one of these films that I just think it would just benefit from repeated watches. There's nice little touches, like the Wizard of Oz being mentioned, and Rosanna Arquette talking about this story about fucking this guy, and before he came, she had to say, "Surrender, Dorothy." Just fucking, wicked. And that's very much like, Paul Hackett, Griffin Dunn's character. He is like Dorothy. He can't get home.
I read the story, the backstory about this, about how Scorsese couldn't get funding for Last Temptation, but he basically co-opted a student script, and it totally feels like that to me. It's formless, and I thought genuine actual surprises were quite thin on the ground. It's one of those films that's completely filled with incident. There's so much.
But I was completely engrossed in every incident. I was hooked from beginning to end.
Loads of stuff happens, but it's about nothing.
But I think isn't that the point though? It's kind of quite Kafkaesque in its whole kind of, do you know what I mean?
It's just one of those movies, it's one of those everything's going to shit movies, and I just find those kind of stressful and pointless. Everything's going to go wrong. So I felt you're just kind of sitting there waiting for things to go wrong.
But you keep thinking there could be, because I was thinking that, things are going wrong, but surely something good's going to happen. He goes to the bar and you think, oh, that's a really nice guy. That guy's giving him the key to his house, and then he gets implicated in all these burglaries that are going wrong. They're kind of doing this kind of almost like they're trying to all the locals are kind of want to lynch this kind of burglar. I was completely wrapped up in it.
I don't think that there's a through line that's interesting, because I felt like I was waiting for things to go wrong. I was like, what's going to go wrong here? What's going to go wrong here?
Was your interest not held?
No, because there's nothing to latch onto. I didn't really know.
I thought. The thing is, you've got every step. There's an element of danger, and is he actually going to get hurt?
I just didn't, because you're not following a story. It's just like you're sitting there waiting. Okay, what's the next left turn? What's the next left turn? I just thought it was completely formless.
But did you not enjoy? I'm just thinking of films that kind of take this narrative of everything goes wrong turn.
Which one's Wrong Turn?
Wrong Turn. Billy Bob Thornton. Billy Bob Thornton's in it. Who's the mate? Oh, it's Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage and Joaquin Phoenix. Oh, is it? No, Joaquin Phoenix is definitely in it. Oh, hang on a minute. I have to look this up.
This sounds like a film that doesn't exist, or it sounds like you're mixing several films up.
No. Hang on a second. Wrong Turn. Yeah, Wrong Turn is the horror film. It's not Wrong Turn. Something fucking turn. And everything just goes. It's like fucking. It's classic fucking kind of Hitchcock. Things are going wrong for the protagonist. Everything that happens, his world is unraveling.
Yeah, but in most of those films, say for example, North by Northwest, you're with him because you're waiting for you're trying to solve this mystery along with him. With this, you're just waiting to see what's going to happen.
It's a far more linear narrative, but I was engaged and I was from the off. I wanted to see how things were going to pan out. Let me just find out that other film because it's a good one to fucking. Not Red Rock West, Wrong Turn, Breakdown. It's got Joaquin Phoenix in it. Hang on, Joaquin Phoenix, and he plays. My name is Toby N. Tucker. Dynamite. Because when I TNT, Joaquin. How do you spell Joaquin?
Oh, you're talking about U-Turn.
Yeah, U-Turn.
Oh right, you're Oliver Stone film.
Yeah, brilliant. So I mean, the whole thing about U-Turn. U-Turn is about a protagonist.
But there's lots going on there. You've got the blackmail story.
Where everything about this character's everything about this character's journey is fraught with shit going wrong. So I think that as a narrative.
Yeah, but who is he and what does he want? In U-Turn, you know that he wants Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez is trying to get him to, fuck over her husband. There's all sorts of things going on. Here, you're watching a man who went out and then he's just waiting for hard left turns in the script. That's it.
Well, he's a man who's trying to get home. He's on a journey. He's thrown into a world that is completely foreign to him. He's like, a 9-to-5 computer word processor who's thrown into an after-hours setting in a city with unscrupulous characters and thieves and artists and dominatrix women and kind of this multitude of characters.
This is very much like a student film to me because it's like, what's it about? Not really anything. What's happening? It's just
a student film edited by Thelma Thume and directed by Scorcese. I mean, you can see this is directed really well. There's no fat. There's no fat on the bone here, and you've got Thelma Shoemaker. I mean, fucking the editing is brilliant in this. I mean, the POV shot with the keys being dropped down, brilliant. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant technique.
I agree with all of that, but I'm talking about the script. At a script level, it's a film about a guy I don't care about because he has no motivations for anything apart from he wants to get home. I just felt like I was being presented. It feels like a student film to me because when you see amateur scripts, they're not about anything. It's just trying to keep you entertained by making hard left turns all the time. And it's just, I find stuff like that incredibly boring. And what's more, I don't see what's funny about it. Obviously, this is supposed to be, it's regarded as a comedy. Scorsese has never felt less sure-footed. I mean, the first overtly comedic moment that happens is when they're in the restaurant and a cashier spins around because when he's asked a question, he spins around because he's training to be a ballet dancer.
But I think that's just more about the quirkiness of that nightlife. I don't think it's played for. It's not like just played for gags to be laugh out loud funny. It's just a quirk of these odd, off-kilter characters that he's going to come across.
It's not. I mean, but it's just like, isn't that unusual or isn't that funny? Whatever it was perceived to be, it could be either of those things if you were on the set when it happened. But when you watch it, I was like, why would you put that in? It's this whole idea of a student because the guy that made it was a film student. Oh, wouldn't that be quirkier than having him just stand there? Perhaps, but what's the purpose of it? Also, later on, there's a scene in a bar, and every time it cuts back to Griffin Dunn, at the other end of the bar, there's these two, cliched 80s gay bikers wearing leather, and they're just sucking face.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is that just funny that it's there?
I don't think it's funny. It's just the kind of everything that is completely foreign, alien to this really straight-laced. His whole world is in complete order. It's just every caricature or everything is thrown at him. I don't think that's thrown for laughs. It's just to make him kind of feel awkward. I mean, all these characters are placed there that are the complete antithesis of what this fucking white collar word processor, completely out of his depth. It's just, I don't think he's there playing it for laughs or anything, Scorsese. I just think this is all part of the canvas that he's painting for this character.
So, is this film a comedy? Everyone says it's a comedy.
Well, I think it's a black comedy. I mean, it's not laugh out loud comedy. It's like, it's like a comedy. It's like a comedy crime drama. If you were to bill it as a genre, it's a comedy crime genre film.
I was just confused because I didn't think any of it was particularly amusing. I didn't really get... I mean, all of the female characters were promiscuous and they often had quite severe mental health issues, apparently. The men are either criminals or constantly on the verge of becoming violent, and I was just...
Well, I think that's painting it very black and white. I think it could have... I'm really glad it didn't go down the cliched route of him just going, like, being like a Leisure Suit Larry character, just trying to get his end away the whole time. It was far more interesting than that.
I mean, even Scorsese's least successful or least interesting films, even when they're exasperating, I've never been bored by a Scorsese film. I don't think any living filmmaker can lay claim to being as consistently interesting as Scorsese. But I was skirting on the edge of just plain boredom throughout this. I was honestly quite bored.
I'm really surprised. I couldn't disagree more. I was completely wrapped up in it. But no, it's a really original film. It's a really original film. I can't think of another film that's like this.
I'm kind of glad of that because I found it to be quite a weird experience. I mean, it is beautifully photographed. And Thelma Schumacher works wonders. She always does. She
always brings her A game. But I mean, I'd watch this again because I'm sure there's other stuff to be spotted in this. I'm a big sucker for films that have got this kind of dreamlike surrealness and what's going to happen. I was completely engaged from beginning to end.
I actually thought parts of it were misdirected. There's one scene where Griffin Dunne blows up at Rosanna Arquette. They're chilling out, they're having a joint, and he explodes at her and says, "Well, where are my paperweights? I came here to get a paperweight."
Yeah, but I thought that's quite funny. That made me laugh.
That was what I've written here. Was that supposed to be funny? Because I didn't really get it. I was like,
no, I did, because he's literally like, he's finally got some fucking cojones to go, what the fuck? I just came. I'm losing my fucking shit here. You got to put in mind that this is like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. This fucking guy is in bed fucking 10 p.m. every night. He's kind of getting unhinged by the whole thing. I just love it that he lost his shit.
He's where he wants to be, in bed with this girl, getting high. I mean, and then he just.
But it's not going. Yeah, but she's fucking completely like. He's not getting the exchange of dialogue. I mean, she is. She's fucking completely like passive aggressive, like intense. Yeah, and he.
I thought when that happened, I thought, is that just to be amusing? I mean, because I don't believe that character, having come this far, would suddenly, when they're finally away from everything and they're relaxing.
But that's funny. The fact that he's there going, just fucking came here for my fucking, my bagel paperweight and stuff. And I thought that's funny, and it's good acting by Griffin Dunne as well.
I think it was good. I think it was misdirected. I don't think that's.
Oh, I like that scene. It made me laugh. So.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about. This film didn't make me laugh once. That's why I'm slightly confused. There are some really great bit parts in this. John Hurd, Terry Garr, Linda Fiorentino, Dick Miller's there. Will Patton, a very young Will Patton who looks like Howling Mad Murdoch. Catherine O'Hara is really great as she plays, again, an ice cream vendor. Oh, you wouldn't expect that, would you? She's an ice cream vendor.
You really liked this, didn't you?
No, I really didn't. It was interesting to note that...
I don't know. I think it's very odd that you're praising it as a comedy. It's quite clearly not just a straight comedy. I don't know if you're expecting like loads of laughs from it. I mean, Scorsese doesn't. I mean, he's not a comedy director.
No, damn right he isn't. I think this proves that. But when things happen, I was just like, why is that in the film? Is it supposed to be funny and I'm not finding it funny, or is it because if it's there for no reason, then what's the? I mean. This is the quandary I was in. I was like, this isn't making me laugh. There's things that are inexplicable. Why would you make Catherine O'Hara a fucking ice cream? I mean, I didn't get it. I thought the performance.
Why would you have Griffin Dunne be made into a paper mache at the end? It's kind of like why if you pick apart why all these weird things that are so kind of unrealistic. That's the whole fabric of the film. Is that there's a lot of unrealistic things that happen in it. I mean, he goes into that club and then they just grab him and start shaving. They've got a bloody clipper on the dance floor that they're going to shave his head. I mean, it's full of moments that are far-fetched, but I don't think that's to his detriment.
I thought it was interesting that Kevin McAllister's parents were both in this, John Hurd and Catherine O'Hara, and something's very interesting that these two characters, as they are in this film, they might be those two characters, Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, they might be the real parents, because at one point, Catherine O'Hara tries to make Griffin Dunn forget a phone number, so she just blurts out a load of numbers. And Catherine O'Hara's character's nephew in Home Alone says the same thing when children are being counted.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The scene in Home Alone, 11, 92, 12, Buzz, don't be a moron. That's a relative of hers. So this is probably them. I don't know why I've gone down this road.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add.
It's amazing. I think it's just really interesting that we've got such divided opinions of it.
A lot of people love this. I read like a little mini essay about After Hours that was written a couple of years ago, and the main thesis was this film is about a night out that becomes more and more about being trapped, about more and more closed in. And I thought that's a perfect observation. But I don't think it makes the film any better.
I really haven't got a bad thing to say about this movie. I think it was a great little movie. Far too many people haven't seen King of Comedy. And this will probably go for the same as that. And I enjoyed it.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad someone did. But let's move on to a film made the following year, Big Trouble in Little China from 1986, directed by John Carpenter. After winning big at an all-night card game, a brash American trucker's pursuit of his winnings leads him into the middle of a centuries-old battle in a mythical realm beneath San Francisco's Chinatown. Big Trouble in Little China.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there. It's a pretty amazing planet we live on here, and a man would have to be some kind of fool to think we're all alone in this universe.
There is a hidden world where ancient evil weaves a modern mystery.
What's going on here? Is this some kind of
magic? The darkest magic.
They call it Little China.
Finally, we shall bring order out of chaos.
It's where Big Trouble was waiting for Jack Burton.
Who? Jack Burton. Me.
Jack?
Jack?
Jack!
They told him to go to hell.
You make one move.
And that's just where he's going.
Somebody, I don't care who, tell me what is going on.
Way to go, Jack.
Jack Burton's coming to rescue your summer.
Hey, what more can a guy ask for?
20th Century Fox presents Kurt Russell in John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China.
It's on the reflexes.
Okay, so Big Trouble in Little China. I had never seen this film for some reason. Had you?
Yeah, plenty of times as a kid.
Yeah. You liked it when you were a kid, I take it?
Yeah, I did like it. I did like it when I was a kid. It's one of those films that I chased for ages and saw it. And I mean, I love chop socky films. I love kung fu movies. But it wasn't one of those films I watched repeatedly as a kid. I was far more into The Golden Child, which I think got released the same year as this, which is fucking hell. I mean, close. I mean, you look at all the years that films are being made about Chinese mythology, kung fu, mysticism of the East, and then two come out in the same year.
Yeah.
I love The Golden Child. I didn't have really big love for Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, apparently they rushed this through production so that they could beat The Golden Child to the box office.
Well, it looks like it was rushed through production.
Yeah, it does. And I don't know how they thought they were going to beat an Eddie Murphy comedy at that point.
Well, you can't. I mean, this film hinges. I think this film has got tremendous amounts of love. I mean, just looking, I sort of read just a few top line reviews, and people love this fucking movie. I think really, loving this movie hinges upon how much you love Kurt Russell. I mean, Eddie Murphy was brilliant, wisecracking, amiable. Jack Burton is just a bit of a fucking dick.
Yeah, Kurt Russell did not feel right to me at all. I mean, Kurt Russell is always best when you aren't sure about him or you're always wondering what he's thinking. And here he's just a goofball who says whatever he thinks and makes some really lame wisecracks. And I didn't find him...
Terrible wisecracks. This film is full of terrible wisecracks. There's only one scene... I didn't laugh at it. That made me sort of smile. Do you know what it is? Did anything make you laugh? Did anything make you smile?
No.
No, I mean, when he basically, they go into Lo Pan's fortress, and they're just about to kick off with a big group of Lo Pan's crew, and he just basically shoots his gun, and a boulder falls down and hits him on the head. But I think I was so kind of beaten into submission by that point, is that I was just looking for something to fucking smile at.
Yeah, I didn't. This is one of those movies. I don't know why I didn't watch it. I love John Carpenter, and friends of mine were obsessed with this film when I was a kid. I just never saw it. I do think it's another one of those films that we've talked about in the past that's just way too muddled. I don't know. It's a little too violent to be a kids' film, and it's way too overtly silly to be a film that's aimed at adults. So I don't really know who it's for. Alarm Bell.
I think they're trying. I think the thing of it is they're trying to cater for as many groups as possible.
Alarm Bell started ringing at the very beginning when the music started, and I was like, "This is John Carpenter's music. His hit rate is amazingly high." But the music for this is really...
Oh, I don't mind the Big Trouble in Little China theme tune at all. It's another one that John Carpenter did with Alan Howarth. I don't mind it. It's certainly nowhere near as good as Escape from New York, They Live. I mean, pick any other John Carpenter film. But I didn't mind at all. I didn't mind at all the intro. The intro music, it's okay for Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, I thought, but normally it's like you kind of get hit in the face by a John Carpenter score, and this was kind of just But this is absolutely a schematic film. It's the Indiana Jones Indomitable Hero blueprint. It's just somebody goes into a situation and problems are thrown at them, and there's a reason why almost everyone regards Raiders of the Lost Ark as one of the best films ever made. And it's because it has characters, it has inventive set pieces, and it has that perfect balance of action and exposition. And this doesn't have any of those things.
This film kicks off with so much exposition in the first 20 minutes. I mean, every character is having to tell you about what is I mean, Christ, they go over and over again on it. I mean, this film suffers from way too much exposition. It suffers on a huge over-reliance on special effects. I mean, the special effects, as a kid, that sequence when you're introduced to the three weather gods. I'm sure there's a better way of terming them than weather gods, but the weather gods. And when they're introduced on camera, as a kid, I remember going, fuck! The special effects look wicked. I mean, they obviously look ropey as hell now, but at the time they packed a punch, and there were moments with Lo Pan that were spooky as a kid. He's a spooky looking fucking character. Two things that were taken from this and obviously put into and immortalised in computer gaming is in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, right.
Raiden, obviously, is one of the Thunder, the Weather God, and Lo Pan. He's massive influence of who's the baddie in Mortal Kombat? Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung. Is that it?
Yeah. He basically is fucking Lo Pan, isn't he?
Yeah, more or less.
This is Hollywood trying to pull off a Hong Kong sword and sorcery genre movie, but just really failing because the characters are just vapid pieces of air. There is no characterization apart from old Jack. Old Jack. Jesus, how many times is old Jack is referenced, or his sidekick? Constantly, Jack this, Jack. You're kind of getting this drilled into your head about Jack Burden.
This is a part that should have been played by an Eddie Murphy, by a comedian who probably would have spitballed and improvised laughs, because there's not really much there's on the page. I was amazed to find out that John Carpenter did this film because he has always wanted to do a martial arts film. And the fights are staged as if Carpenter has no interest in them whatsoever. Someone throws a punch, cut to somebody hitting the deck. Someone throws a kick, cut to someone flying against the wall. It's the least thrilling combat footage I think I've ever seen.
It's really awful martial arts.
I can't believe he
it doesn't look like it doesn't look like any of the punches or kicks
connecting. Yeah. It's amateurish rubbish. That said, the final battle is a hell of a lot more enjoyable. It's more vibrant. There's it's not just people punching and kicking each other. There's a bit of pep to it, but I wonder if that was down to the fact that they had to rush this film. They couldn't go to the trouble of choreographing those earlier fights well, or whether they wanted to just give the final battle so much more punch by making.
Well, they threw everything at the wall in the last battle, so you do get an energy there, definitely. I mean, the look of the film and the set design is really good. I mean, loads of work has gone into the set design. It looks great. The underground layer looks really good.
You think?
But they should have. I think it looks really good. It's just like gold statues everywhere, and the set design was good. I just think they should have spent less time on the random. He looks like basically Harry and the Hendersons gone bad. I mean, where did he come from? He just crops up and runs around a bit.
Yeah, but it's that thing again. This is why again it's a perfect pairing with After Hours, because it's just. Look, more stuff. And you're like, okay, what's going to happen now? Something's going to happen. He's going to fall on a wheelchair down. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, but really, really quite shit. There's one thing I did like, and it did confuse me. Kim Cattrall's performance is really something. It's like she's acting in a pantomime.
No. I completely.
I didn't dislike her performance.
She delivers the lines of dialogue like she's somebody out of like Brit School.
As I was watching, I was thinking, is this? It's the kind of performance that feels like some kind of protest. I mean, she does have nothing to do, to be fair, and she's playing a supposedly hyper-intelligent woman who acts like a complete bimbo most of the time. So she seems to be, I mean, this is all in my head, but she seemed to be protesting by just giving the most overtly cartoonish and theatrical grandstanding grand dame performance that I've ever seen. I don't think it derailed the film at all. I just thought there's probably an interesting story behind it.
I mean, I suppose an interesting idea in this is the fact that Jack Burton is basically the sidekick, as opposed to it isn't the Western Hollywood actor who's actually got all the skills. It's Wang Chi who's the competent martial artist, and Jack Burton's really the comedy. So it's kind of flipping that role reversal a little bit. I mean, I can understand why this was a huge flop at the box office, but I mean, it found obviously loads of love on the home rental market, and it's got a huge cult following. The poster artwork for this is brilliant. I mean, I remember as a kid looking at it and going, it's one of those things where like the look of it is actually far better than the execution of the film itself. The film itself is just full of problems.
It felt like to me those final 6 or 7 minutes, really anticlimactic 6 or 7 minutes at the end of They Live, where they're just walking around corridors and shooting. It feels like that, but feature length. It feels like it's. I can't believe that John Carpenter has spoken very highly about this film and he thinks the world of it, but it feels like it was made by somebody who really didn't give a fucking shit about it and just wanted to get a paycheck.
I think maybe a lot to do with it is the fact that they, as we spoke about before, is that they've had to rush it out, so it came out before The Golden Child.
Carpenter said, it's a fantastic film, it's a terrific film, but...
Well, he probably had loads of fun making it. I mean, the look of the film is undeniably strong. When you're introduced to the three gods, that's quite a nice, quite a well done sequence. There's quite a lot of atmosphere there, and there is spookiness, but it really is just a real subpar action romp. I mean, mentioning Indiana Jones in the same sentence as Jack Burton seems like a bit of a travesty, but it's trying to emulate some of that indie gold.
Yeah, and just fading miserably. I mean, I like this. The set design was fine. What I thought was really weird is Dean Cundy was the cinematographer who John Carpenter worked with innumerable times. He's best known for doing the cinematography on Halloween, and utilising shadow as brilliantly as anyone ever has. This is so lit. Everything's so lit that everything looked like a set. It didn't really have a chance to kind of sort of.
But that's a very 80s trope, isn't it?
I suppose so, but there's things that are sets in like Indiana Jones movies that don't look like sets. Every single shot in this film looks like it was shot on a soundstage, and there's bits, even when they're in the caves or some of the bits when they're in those grand palaces, it's lit to kind of emphasise the fact that it's a set, and it ended up making it feel quite cheap. Dean Cundy doesn't... everything's so brightly lit that I've used this comparison before, but it looks like TV. There's not really any desire to add anything with the lighting. It just seems like that everything's brightly lit. That was a strange. It was a very. I watched this with a friend of mine, And he'd seen it hundreds of times as a kid, and he absolutely loved it. And at one point, towards the end, I said, "What the fuck is going on in this film?" And he turned to me and said, "I've never understood what I've never understood this film, because it is just bang, bang,
I think
bang,
some
bang.
people just like, the thing is, a lot of the fans of this film, they just love the ride.
I think once the children of the 80s pass on, I think this film will be impossible to find and it will disappear into history. But I might be underestimating that love, because there was a comic book tie-in recently.
And also there's a film reboot with The Rock.
What?
The Rock is rebooting it.
I mean, it's one of those many things that I'm sure won't happen. That doesn't sound like... Why would they remake this?
Because the fucking fan base is huge online.
Yeah, the comic book, there's a board game coming out soon. I think there's a card game, battle game coming out soon as well. So maybe there are more people that love it than it seems, but this was really just a fucking slog, to be honest.
No, I mean, comparing this to After Hours, I was bored in Big Trouble in Little China. I was never bored in After Hours.
I was bored I was skirting on being bored in After Hours, but you can't...
I was flat out bored in Big Trouble in Little China.
I think I was too. I basically was as well, and I didn't really understand or care what was happening. I thought the final fight at the end was quite cool, but yeah, it's a time waster.
Put it this way: can you remember how each of the weather gods was dispatched?
No,
exactly. Neither can I. Which is like they are the main baddies, or the way that I thought it was just such an anticlimax how Lo Pan was taken out. I mean, literally, he faces up against Kurt Russell, who catches a knife and throws the knife straight back into him. It goes into the centre of his head, dead.
Oh yeah. I remember thinking...
They built up the whole film to have the face-off, and it lasts literally 25 seconds.
The only good thing about that is that it reminds me of one of the best endings of all time, which is Dead Heat, where it's the same situation. They finally get to this bad guy, and he just when they get to him, he's like, "Oh no chance," and he just blows his own head off.
I fucking love
and that is but that's hilarious.
Dead Heat is a piece of absolute joy.
Yeah, it's gold.
Fucking love that.
But that's what I mean. That's so hilarious in that situation. This is just... Did they not have the budget?
It just felt really sort of just haphazard and cheap.
Yeah, it's a cheap shit film. I'm surprised that it still has as much currency as it does. But nostalgia's a motherfucker.
And there you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's no contest. After Hours is an immeasurably better film, while being something that I really did not enjoy.
Go out and see After Hours. If you haven't seen After Hours, watch it. Big Trouble in Little China. Just stay in that time capsule in the 80s.
If you didn't see it in the 80s or as a child, I don't really know what's in it for you. Almost nothing.
I amen to that.
Okay, right, well, After Hours is the winner, it seems.
There we go. Another one in the case.
Yes, thank you very much for listening. Check us out, social media, all that stuff. YouTube, we've got all the episodes on there with footage attached and some other stupid little things as well. But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you again next time.
Goodbye.
Ciao.
Cult film Face Off.